few days after the 10th of August, 1949, when I first saw the Mann Gulch fire and started to become, even then in part consciously, a small part of its story. I had just arrived from the east to spend several weeks in my cabin at Seeley Lake, Montana. The postmistress in the small town at the lower end of the lake told me about the fire and how 13 Forest Service Smokejumpers had been burned to death on the 5th of August, trying to get to the top of a ridge ahead of a blow-up in tall, dead grass. In the small town at Seeley Lake, and in the big country around it, there are only summer tourists and loggers, and, since the loggers are the only permanent residents, they have all the mailboxes at the post office. The postmistress, of course, has come to know them all, and as a result knows a lot about forests and forest fires in a gossipy way. Since she and I are old friends, I have a box too, and every day when I came for my mail, she passed on to me the latest she had heard about the dead Smokejumpers, most of them college boys, until after about a week I realized I would have to see the Mann Gulch fire myself while some of it was still burning. I knew, of course, that a fire that big would be burning long after it had been brought under control. I had gone to work for the Forest Service during World War I, when there was a shortage of men and I was only 15, 4 years younger than Thal, the youngest of those who had died in Mann Gulch, so by the time I was his age, I had been on several big fires. I knew, for instance, that the Mann Gulch fire would be burning for a long time because one November I had gone back with my father to hunt deer in country close to where I had been on a big fire that summer, and to my surprise I had seen stumps and fallen trees still burning, with smoke coming out of blackened holes in the snow. But even though I knew smoke would probably be curling out of Mann Gulch till November, there came a day in early August when I could not listen to any more post office gossip about the fire. I even had a notion of why I had to go and see the fire right then. I once had seen a ghost, and the ghost again possessed me. The big fire that had still been burning late into the hunting season had been on Fish Creek, the Fish Creek that is about 9 miles by trail, as I remember, from Lolo Hot Springs. Fish Creek was fine deer country, and the few homesteaders who had holed up there made a living by supplementing the emaciated produce from their rocky gardens with the cash they collected from deer hunters in the autumn by turning their cabins into overnight hunting lodges. Deer, then, were a necessary part of their economy and their diet. They had venison on the table 12 months a year, the game wardens never bothering them for shooting deer out of season, just as long as they didn't go around bragging that they were getting away with beating the law. Those of us on the fire crew that had been sent from the ranger station at Lolo Hot Springs were pretty sure that the fire had been started by one of these homesteaders. The Forest Service had issued a permit to a big sheep outfit to graze a flock of 1,000 or so on a main tributary of Fish Creek, and you probably know, hunters are sure they know, that sheep graze a range so close to the ground that nothing is left for a deer to eat when the sheep have finished. Hunters even say that a grasshopper can't live on the grass sheep leave behind. The fire had been started near the mouth of the tributary, on the assumption, we assumed, that the fire would burn up the tributary, which was a box canyon, all cliffs, with no way of getting sheep out of it. From a deer hunter's point of view, it was a good place for sheep to die. The fire, though, burned not only up the tributary, but down it to where it entered Fish Creek and could do major damage to the country. We tried first to use Fish Creek as a fire line, hoping to stop the fire at the water's edge, but when it reached thick brush on one side of the creek, it didn't even wait to back up and take a run before it jumped into the brush on the other side. Then we were the ones who had to back up fast. At this point, Fish Creek is in such a narrow and twisted canyon that the main trail going down it is on the side hill, so we backed up to the side hill trail, which was to be our second line of defense. I was standing where the fire jumped the trail. At first, it was no bigger than a small Indian campfire, looking more like something you could move up close to and warm your hands against, than something that in a few minutes could leave your remains lying in prayer with nothing on but a belt. For a moment or two, I could have stepped over it and fought it just as well from the upstream side, and when it got a little bigger, I still could have walked around it. Instead, I fought it where I stood for no other reason than that all of us are